A jugular foramen is one of the two left and right large foramina opening in the base of the skull. Located beyond the carotid canal, it is formed by the temporal bone and the occipital bone. It allows many structures to pass through, including the inferior pituitary sinus, three cranial nerves, sigmoid sinus, and the meningeal artery. This jugular foramen divided into three compartments. Anterior compartment transmits the inferior pituitary sinus. Intermediate compartment transmits the glossopharyngeal nerve, the vagus nerve, and the accessory nerve. The posterior compartment transmits the sigmoid sinus, becoming the internal jugular vein, some meningeal branches from the occipital artery and ascending pharyngeal artery. The alternative classification according to radiology, this compartment jugular foramen divided into two compartments by the jugular span, which is a bony ridge partially separating the jugular foramen into two parts. The smaller intermedial parts is called pars nervosa, containing the glossopharyngeal nerve and inferior pituitary sinus. The larger posterolateral compartment is called pars vascularis, which contain cranial nerve 10th, 11th, and the jugular bulb. So, two compartment, that is pars nervosa and pars vascularis. The glossopharyngeal nerve gives off the tympanic branch, or you can say Jacobson's nerve, which enter the tympanic cavity by the inferior tympanic canaliculus, spreading over the cochlear promontory. It provides sensation to the middle ear and eustachian tube, as well as parasympathetic innervation to the parotid gland through the auriculotemporal nerve. The vagus nerve gives off the auricular branch or Arnold nerve, which passes through the mustard canaliculus posterior to jugular foramen. It provides sensation to external auditory canal, external surface of the tympanic membrane, and pinna. The jugular bulb lies just inferior to the hypotympanum, separating by thin bony plate, which sometimes may be dehiscent. Paraganglioma of temporal bone are ovate bodies measuring about 0.1 to 1.5 mm in diameter. They are located along the Arnold and Jacobson's nerve and within the adventitia of the jugular bulb. Over 50% of these paraganglia are located near the jugular fossa, 10% on the cochlear promontory, and 20% in the inferior tympanic canaliculus. So, paraganglioma can arise within these three sites. It means from the jugular fossa, from the cochlear promontory, or from the inferior tympanic canaliculus. So these paraganglioma is three types according to the location. First is tympanic paraganglioma. These tympanic paraganglioma can arise from the tympanic cavity or mustard cavity. These are called tympanic paraganglioma. And second type is jugular paraganglioma. These arise from the jugular foramen or adjacent skull base. This second type is called jugular paraganglioma. But once tumor is grow, there is little or no difference between the jugulotympanic paraganglioma. So it becomes when these two location combine and form a paraganglioma extension, then it is called jugulotympanic paraganglioma. Malignancy chances are there only in the jugular type of the paraganglioma, about 1.6%, and there is no malignancy is seen in the tympanic paraganglioma. So these paraganglioma are slightly common in female than the male. Median age about 55 years, and it's between 45 to 70 year of the age the common age group which are affected with the jugulotympanic paraganglioma. Tympanic paragangliomas of Jacobson Arnold nerves usually fill the middle ear, surround the ossicles, and occlude the eustachian tube. Common presenting symptom in tympanic paraganglioma is tinnitus is most common symptom, followed by hearing loss, oral fullness, vertigo, otalgia, and bleeding are common symptom of the tympanic paraganglioma. More than one presenting symptom occur in 70% of the cases. There are three signs in tympanic paraganglioma. First sign is rising sun sign. You can see the mass, reddish mass behind the tympanic membrane is called rising sun sign. Second is brown sign. If you use positive pneumatic otoscopy, there is blanching of this mass. It's called brown sign. If this reddish color mass blanches on compression of the ipsilateral carotid artery, this sign is called Aquina sign. So three signs is here: rising sun sign, brown sign, and Aquina signs. The DD of tympanic paraganglioma may be vascular retrotympanic mass, include paraganglioma, distant jugular bulb, aberrant internal carotid artery, persistent stapedial artery, or middle ear cholesterol granuloma. At times, they can extrude through the tympanic membrane into the external auditory canal, mimicking a polyp which can bleed profusely. Paragangliomas can rarely invade the labyrinthine, resulting in the sensory hearing loss and vertigo, or can directly involve the facial nerve, resulting in facial nerve palsy. Tumor can extend inferiorly through the weakness in the inferior tympanic cavity to involve the jugular foramen, and that become the jugular paraganglioma. In jugular paraganglioma, most common present in the fifth to sixth decade of life and common in the female. Most common presenting symptom in jugular paraganglioma are hearing loss, followed by pulsatile tinnitus and hoarseness of voice. Is the third common symptom. Jugular paraganglioma arises in jugular foramen and often cause paralysis of cranial nerve 9th, 10th, 11th, resulting in jugular foramen syndrome, or you can say Wernicke syndrome. This syndrome manifests as hoarseness of voice, dysphagia, loss of taste of the posterior third of the tongue, deviation of soft palate toward the unaffected sides, and weakness of trapezius and sternocleidomastoid muscle. With continued growth, the hypoglossal nerve can also be involved, resulting in ipsilateral tongue atrophy and deviation of tongue to the affected side. And last is jugulotympanic paraganglioma, in which the common presenting symptom is hearing loss and tinnitus are almost equally prevalent, and the extent of this may be from the jugular foramen to the mastoid cavity or middle ear, or up to the hypotympanum, and may also go into intracranial extension in the middle cranial fossa. So this is jugulotympanic paraganglioma. The classification of jugulotympanic paraganglioma, the most common followed classification is Fish classification. In this, type A is tumor limited to the middle ear. Type B is tumor limited to the tympanomastoid area with no infralabyrinthine involvement. Type C is tumor involving infralabyrinthine compartment of temporal bone extending into the petrous apex. Type D. D1 is tumor with intracranial extension less than 2 cm. D2 tumor with intracranial extension more than 2 cm. Modified Fish classification further divided class C into 4 parts. C1 is tumor destroying the jugular foramen bulb with limited involvement of vertical portion of the carotid canal. C2 is tumor invading the vertical portion of carotid canal infratubular segment of ICA. C3 is tumor invading the horizontal petrous segment of the carotid canal, and C4 tumor reaching the anterior foramen lacerum along the internal carotid artery to the cavernous sinus. Further, class D divided into the further divisions. DE1 tumor with up to 2 cm dural displacement. DE2 tumor with more than 2 cm dural displacement. DI1 tumor with up to 2 cm intradural extension. I means intradural. And DI2 tumor with more than 2 cm intradural extension. And DI3 inoperable intracranial intradural tumors like invading the carotid artery or fully extend into the cavernous sinus. And class fifth is also added, that is VE tumor engulfing the extradural vertebral artery. In VI tumor involving the intradural vertebral artery. So the V classification added according to the invasion of the vertebral artery. So in modified fish classification, there are five grades: A, B, C, D, and V. V for vertebral artery involvement. Another classification, that is Glascock injection classification, in which type 1 is small tumor involving the jugular valve, medullary mustard. Type 2 is tumor extending under the internal auditory canal, may extend intracranial extension. Type 3 is tumor extending petrous apex up to intracranial extension. And type 4, tumor extending beyond the petrous apex into the clivus, infratemporal fossa, may have some intracranial extension. So this is the Glascock injection classification. Like other paraganglioma, jugulotympanic paraganglioma treatment are same: observation, radiotherapy, and surgical excision. The surgical excision is the treatment of choice. According to anatomical location, if there is tympanic pure paraganglioma is there, you can remove by transcanal approach. If it is extend up to the mastod, you can remove by the mustard with extended facial recess approach. If purely jugular bulb is involved, you have to do mastodectomy with neck dissection. So approach is mustard neck extended approach. If carotid artery involvement is there by any segment from vertical to horizontal, then approach may be infratemporal fossa approach according to the extension ABC. And transdural, if this tumor extends intracranially, then you have to do external craniofacial, or you can say transdural approaches should be applied. In infratemporal fossa, approach is required for the tumor extending into the infratemporal fossa or vein. Control of petrous portion of the internal carotid artery is necessary. Transcervical transtemporal approach can be performed if facial nerve need to be transposed. And according to need, the mandible is mandibulotomy some be required to expose the infratemporal fossa which is going in the parapharyngeal space. So according to the extension, surgery depend on the extension of the tumor. The most common complication of surgery is the CSF leak, followed by aspiration, and infection and ischemia are another complications.